The 2025 season will be really interesting for Virginia and Tony Elliott. Now, Tony Elliott had his team go 5-7 last year. They are looking to make a bowl game, and I wouldn't say he has the hottest seat in college football, but he definitely has to produce more wins. But today we're going to take a look at some of the exciting things coming back for this team, the top 10 players for this team. We'll look at the schedule, talk about what we should expect from this schedule, and talk about what the 2025 season could be for the Cavaliers. Now, a name you probably don't know right off the bat is Cam Robinson. This is someone who does everything for this defense. He is a playmaker, he is a leader, and this defense has the potential to be an exciting group and much improved group as well. There were some things they did really well, and Cam Robinson is a big reason why. 64 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 1 pass defended, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception. So he's all over the field for this team, and he's faced some really good competition. So he knows what it takes to win at this level. He knows what it takes to win football games and compete. And the defense, like I said, feels like it's in really good hands with him running the show. Everybody's obviously going to pay attention to the quarterback position. Bringing in Chandler Morris brought some excitement to this program at that position, but there's also the question about, can he handle playing in the ACC? The former North Texas and TCU and Oklahoma transfer is now with his fourth school. He's with the Virginia Cavaliers, and last year was a good year for him. Over 3,700 yards, 31 touchdowns. He did throw 12 interceptions, so you'd like to see him maybe reduce those if you're going to make big plays. And part of that is, who is he going to throw to? There's plenty of new faces coming in. There's plenty of young faces and inexperienced faces that will be stepping up. There's plenty of talent, but he has to find someone that he's going to hit consistently. And this offense could use a little bit of a boost in terms of explosive plays. It didn't exactly do a lot of great things last year offensively, but you have the talent coming back to make that different in 2025. Before we continue with the video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and take a look. It takes a couple of seconds. It helps the channel grow. We've seen tremendous growth in the last couple of years, and we'd like to keep that going. Doing a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers, so we're hoping to hit that goal this year, and you make that happen. But let's get back to the video. Looking back to the defense, we talked about Cam Robinson. James Jackson is going to be a really fun pair with Cam Robinson. 45 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, an experienced player that gives them a good 1-2 punch. And the linebacker position could potentially be the strength of this team. At front seven for sure is going to be a solid group. James Jackson is someone that could be an all-conference type player. If everything goes right, people know who Cam Robinson is, and that gives James Jackson more opportunities to show what he can do. A transfer that I took in that I really like is Fisher Kamak from UNLV. He very explosive for a linebacker on the edge, 46 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks last year for the Rebels. Going to play on the defensive end position here for the Cavaliers. 6'7", 248 pounds, so he's got the size to make that happen. And that gives them a replacement for some of the guys that depart. When you look at losing Cam Butler and Chico Bennett Jr., that's not easy to replace necessarily, but they hit the transfer portal. They did a good job, and a guy like Kamak could have a monster impact this year. Sticking with the defensive line, Jameer Carter is a name you probably don't know. And honestly, they have a good 1-2 punch that we'll talk about. Jameer Carter is one of those guys. Really good size, 6'2", 311 pounds. Very good at eating up blocks and opening things up for the linebackers behind him. And that's a good combination. Like I said, this front seven feels like it's in a really good place. And part of that is you have a tandem up front in the middle that's going to make things very difficult for the teams they face, and the linebackers know what to do if they have to clean anything up. But also, those guys up front, especially Jameer Carter, know how to open up lanes for those linebackers to shoot the gap and make disruptive plays. Virginia is just full of underrated players, and that's kind of the nature of this team. When you've looked at Virginia in the past, when you play in the ACC, people know the Clemsons, the Miamis, they know those top teams, but you don't necessarily know the guys on Virginia. And Jam Jackson is someone who probably deserves more recognition than he gets. But again, you're playing in such a tough conference. You're playing really good talent. It's tough to make a name for yourself, but this year could be his year. 58 tackles, 6 passes defended, no interceptions last year, so maybe getting a couple of picks maybe increases your popularity within the conference. But this is, again, a really exciting team defensively. Even though the secondary has multiple starters they have to replace, you feel like they're still in good hands. We talked about Chandler Morris and who he needs to throw to. One of the guys could be James Madison transfer Cam Ross. Cam Ross comes in from the Dukes after a decent year, 37 catches for 443 yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, like I said, there's plenty of talent at the pass catcher position. Trell Harris could be included in this list. Andre Green Jr. could be another guy. You also bring in Jaden Thomas from Notre Dame. You bring in Jamal Adrien from Purdue. So you bring in some talent that could potentially be explosive, could be potentially fun to watch for this team. Cam Ross is the guy who is a proven talent, did it at James Madison, did it at UConn, and now he's looking to do it again with Virginia. Another secondary player that probably flies under the radar way too much is Antonio Clary. 48 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 3 passes defended, 1 interception. Another guy who could be pushing for all conference type play this year, and that's really exciting for this team. Again, you're going to face plenty of talented teams, especially in the NIL era where guys are transferring everywhere. You're bringing in new talent to the Miamis. Clemson's absolutely stacked. Florida State's looking to rebuild. Louisville's a part. You could go up and down this conference, and you know you have plenty of talented pass catching players to defend. And Antonio Clary is going to have his hands full, but you feel confident if you're Virginia's defense because he's an experienced player that knows what he's doing. Running the football is interesting for this team because when you look at Tony Elliott and what he did when he was OC at Clemson, running the football wasn't something that they struggled with. And sometimes it feels like Virginia just couldn't move the ball on the ground. And that's not necessarily all on the running backs. The offensive line plays a role in that. But Xavier Brown's return is, I think, really important for this offense. I think he is the X factor for this offense. And this is a guy who averaged over 6 yards per carry, only had 80 rushes, but 488 yards and 1 touchdown. You feel like he's now the bell cow for this offense, and with more carries probably means more production. We mentioned earlier, but Anthony Britton joins Jameer Carter up the middle for this defense, and this is a combination that not going to be the most elite combination, but a combination that you probably should know if you're an ACC team, and teams probably do. But Anthony Britton is another guy, 6'3", 317 pounds. So you have 2 guys with good size up the middle. They know how to be disruptive. They know how to open things up for the guys around them. They're selfless players, and that's really good for your linebackers to make plays. You also, like I said, you have to bring in 2 new defensive ends. So a guy like Fisher Kamek needs to get his feet under him in a new conference, in a Power 4 conference, and guys like Carter and Britton can help with that transition. And finally, the schedule. Right now, the over-under is set at 6.5 for Virginia, and it feels like there's not a ton of volatility with that. I put the ceiling at 7-5. I put the floor at 5-7, and maybe that's where I'm going wrong. But when you look at the schedule, it's not exactly an easy schedule, though I will mention that you avoid certain teams. So you start with Coastal Carolina. That probably should be a win, though the Chanticleers are a tough team. NC State is looking to rebuild. That could be, I mean, you look at the schedule, you could be 4-0 heading into the Florida State game. And there's no guarantee that Florida State is going to be better. They brought in a ton of talent to hopefully improve, but Florida State has a lot of work to do as well. At Louisville is kind of a tough game. A random game hosting Washington State. Then you go at North Carolina, at Cal, home versus Wake Forest, at Duke, and home versus Virginia Tech to end the year. So there's definitely 7 wins in there. You also avoid Clemson, you avoid SMU, and you avoid Miami. So you feel like you're in a good position if you're a Virginia fan. The schedule is kind to you, and you don't have a ton of tough games on the road. The toughest game you probably look at is the Louisville game. Duke could be potentially tough. We don't know what North Carolina is going to be, but I think that the schedule is very favorable. But that being said, I would be surprised if they win more than 7 games. I think that they're definitely a bowl team for sure. I just don't necessarily know if I see more than 7 wins. That being said, this is really exciting if you're a Virginia fan. You look at the schedule, it's in your favor. You have the right amount of talent coming back. The quarterback position has potential. If all those pieces come together, then I'm definitely going to be wrong. 7 wins is probably not going to be enough. They're probably going to win more than that. But a lot of things have to go right. There's certain starters that have to get replaced. So right now, it's kind of cautious optimism if you're a Virginia fan, but it's still optimism for Tony Elliott and his program nonetheless.